Elizabeth Warren is one of the most corrupt politicians to ever step foot in Washington. When you add up all the lies and then take a look at everything else she said, it's almost impossible to tell the difference. It's time we take a look at the life and lies of the leader of the anti-crypto army, Elizabeth Warren. Let's get it. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto. My name is Ben. In this video, we're going to show you facts that too many people willingly ignore about the Democrats' darling, Elizabeth Warren. Before I jump into this video, I want to keep it real with you. In the past, I've always done my best to play the center of the aisle and not pick sides. I do not wish to isolate any members of the BitSquad based off their political beliefs. For the most part, I still take this approach with my public position on politics. But here's the thing. As the plot has thickened over time, I become a one-issue voter. And that issue is obviously crypto. So when Elizabeth Warren has come out saying that she's creating an anti-crypto army, well, I'm sure you can see how much that boils my blood. I have zero tolerance for politicians who have been lying to your face for years, let alone those who are still in office and have never once been held accountable. We're talking about a woman that has made a career out of gaming the system on the backs of minorities for her own benefit. We're talking about a woman that has straight up lied to the American people more times than I can count, and I'm a high counter. So whenever Senator Karen comes out against crypto and does the song and dance about how crypto is only for drug lords and money launderers, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to push back and she's not going to like it. Think about it. Is she saying this because she really cares about the average everyday investor? Or is it that she's seeking to protect the legacy system that's been lining her own pockets and funding her own agenda for decades? Let's make something perfectly clear. Elizabeth Warren has no idea what it's like for your everyday person. Absolutely no idea. She couldn't be more disconnected from real life if she tried. First of all, Warren is 73 years old. She's been a senator since 2013, and her and her husband are worth about $12 million. You can see how much it aggravates me when she panders to the less financially fortunate voters, playing into their emotions, saying, tax the rich, when she's higher up the 1% ladder than half the actors in Hollywood. This amount of hypocrisy is immeasurable. From the very beginning, she's been touting herself as someone who's fighting for the best interest of lower middle class. But in reality, she's been making it harder and harder for those same people to climb the socioeconomic ladder. So let's take an honest look at the biggest liar in American politics. Her lies run so deep, even her name is a lie. On June 22nd, 1949, Elizabeth Ann Herring was born in Oklahoma City. But wait, she's been married to Bruce Mann for over 40 years. With a maiden name of Herring and her husband's last name is Mann, where does Warren come into the picture? The truth they don't want to tell you is that Elizabeth actually dropped out of college when she was 19 and ran off to marry a man named Jim Warren. The couple had 2 kids together, and unfortunately for them, Elizabeth and Jim got divorced when the children were only 7 and 12 years old. She married Bruce 2 years later. She proposed to him. Class act for sure. What a man. The thing is, she did go back to college during her first marriage and published several books and academic articles under the name Elizabeth Warren. So she decided to keep her first husband's name to avoid confusing her readers and colleagues. He probably asked her. Fun fact, if you ask ChatGPT if her and Bruce Mann have kids together, it says yes, they do. This is false. They don't have kids. ChatGPT will also tell you that she married Bruce when she dropped out of college. Also not true. It's kind of crazy how far AI is blatantly biased to the left to protect the image of their darling. But I'll save that for another day. Moving forward, Warren got her master's degree from the University of Houston Law Center in 1978. For the next few decades, she taught law at several universities, including Texas, Pennsylvania, and even the prestigious Harvard Law School. What came back to bite her in the short-lived run for the presidency is that back when she landed those professor jobs, she was considered a minority hire. That's right. Elizabeth Warren identified as a Native American when she applied to the universities. The directory and faculty pages at Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania even put her on a pedestal in their internal pushes to prove their diversification. In 1986, Warren even started self-reporting herself as a minority protester. Warren claimed that she did this to connect with her family heritage, which was completely anecdotal. My question is, why did it take her 38 years of her life to suddenly identify as a Native American? She never once said she was Native American on her college application, so why this change of heart? Is it because she actually cares, or was it a cold, calculated move for her own professional gain? Doesn't hurt to get the minority vote either, does it? Here's a video of her lying about her parents' marriage on national television.
My mom and dad were very much in love with each other, and they wanted to get married. And my father's parents said, absolutely not. You can't marry her because she's part Cherokee and she's part Delaware. And after fighting it as long as they could, my parents went off, they eloped. It was an issue in our family the whole time I grew up about these two families. It was an issue still raised at my mother's funeral.
After this video resurfaced, some internet servers with big shovels did some digging to see if these claims were true. Turns out her parents did not elope, and their wedding was carried out by a prominent pastor in their town. And that the announcement of the wedding in the local paper made zero mention of the wedding being a secret. This situation has been a main topic of controversy surrounding Elizabeth Warren's story, and even resulted in Donald Trump calling her
Pocahontas. I mean, Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, seriously.
Trump even said that he would pay $1 million to a charity of her choice to take the test. For a long time, she vehemently refused to take a DNA test. But once the controversy became too much to deal with, she took the test.
What do the facts say?
The facts suggest that you
absolutely have a Native American ancestor in your pedigree.
Once she got the test results back, the evidence suggested that she's between 1/164th and 1/124th Native American. The DNA test proved that she has a small fraction of Native blood in her, but that doesn't at all connect her to any tribe or give her any right to fly a flag that doesn't belong to her, especially for her own gain. Many Native Americans were very upset with Warren, even more so after the test. First of all, the real Native Americans felt that the conversation surrounding them should be about bettering their situation, not a game of who's who among white politicians. The fact this story got more coverage than any real Native American issue says a lot, and you can't blame them for being upset about it. In response to the debacle, Chuck Hoskin, the Cherokee Nation Secretary of State, said using a DNA test to lay claim to any connection to the Cherokee Nation or any tribal nation, even vaguely, is inappropriate and wrong. Senator Warren is undermining tribal interest with her continued claims of tribal heritage. Ouch. Talk about an all-time backfire. After all this settled down, Warren did publicly apologize to the Native Americans, but as you can see, it didn't really make a difference. The damage was already done. So why am I digging all this up? This is in the past and she apologized, so it's over, right? No. Remember when I said that Warren was worth $12 million? Well, a lot of that money comes from the sales of her many books. One of those books was Pow Wow Chow, a collection of recipes from families of the 5 civilized tribes. So what is a big deal is that she straight up copy-pasted her recipes directly from a 1979 issue of the Daily News. That goes for the cold omelets with crab meat and the crab with tomato mayonnaise dressing. Not only are the ingredients plagiarized, but the preparation is even copied word for word, right down to the 7-inch Teflon pan. I'm not sure what's more messed up about this, that she stole the recipes from a newspaper and sold them, that she wrote Cherokee next to her name, or the fact that these are French recipes. And this is the woman who we're going to let take down crypto? I think not. So what else has Senator Karen lied about? Remember when she ran for presidency and got deep fried during every debate? That's because she was backing Bernie's plan for healthcare, but at least Bernie was honest about who the money was coming from. You. Back then in her run for the White House, she also promised not to accept any PAC money to fund her. But that didn't stop her from accepting millions of dollars from individual investors who I'm sure had their own agenda. Remember earlier in the video how I left the names of her kids out of the script? Well, they were brought into her lies when Warren was taking her stance on public schools. She told school choice activists that both of her kids went to public school. Once again, she got caught in another public lie. She was forced to redact the statement, correcting it to that her son went to public school until 5th grade. She wanted to make it more difficult for parents to send their kids to different schools by pulling the plug on the voucher programs, limiting children to getting best education possible. See, the problem with Elizabeth Warren is her entire career is plagued with lies. No matter how small or big they are, at the end of the day, she's a liar and she can't be trusted. I can't believe she's running for Senate for her 3rd term in 2024. Let's just hope every citizen in Massachusetts watches this video before making a hat trick out of this mistake. Now, before we continue, I'd like to take a moment to thank Stake for sponsoring this video. While Senator Karen is busy gambling on lies that you're idiots, on Stake, you can gamble for money, real crypto. Thank you to Stake. Remember Patrick McHenry, the congressman who recently flamed Gary Gensler for not being able to answer if ETH was or was not a security? He agrees with me on this. He called Warren a liar during a hearing 11 years ago. Let's take a look.
Look, Ms. Warren, it was a simple request. Your staff had a request. My staff said we're trying to accommodate you. We're going to get you out of here in 10 minutes.
No, Congressman, we had an agreement.
You had no agreement.
We had an agreement for the time this hearing would
You're
occur.
making this up, Ms.
You asked
Warren.
it.
You're simply, this is not the case.
Look at her face. This Jim happened 11 years ago when the Republicans were pushing back against the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, also known as the CFPB. The CFPB was created as part of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Basically, the CFPB was Warren's brainchild in response to the 2008 financial crisis, because God forbid we hold the banks accountable. From all her time spent on both sides of the classroom and law education, she became an expert in the field of bankruptcy. This is why Obama appointed her a special position at the board. But naturally, there was far too much pushback for Warren to be allowed to run. I hear Gary Gensler also wants to put Elizabeth Warren in some special positions. The problem with the CFPB is, oh man, where do I begin? They'll tell you that the CFPB is there to protect consumers and promote fair competition in the financial industry. But they say that about the SEC too, right? And how's that going? The CFPB, just like the SEC, oversteps their boundaries and overreaches their power, completely unimpeded and independent of Congress. At the time, the House, Senate, and White House was completely Democratic, and this bill had little to no Republican support. So, of course, Warren's brainchild is an overpowered nightmare that knows no rules. The CFPB has imposed heavy regulatory burdens on financial institutions, stifling innovation. Of these regulatory burdens, the small banks and small businesses that Warren cares about so much were hurt the most because the agency takes a one-size-fits-all approach. Also, this agency doesn't go through the normal appropriation process. It's funded directly by the Federal Reserve, which is a clear violation of the Constitution's separation of powers. Like don't forget the worst part of this, the Volcker Rule. This rule prohibits banks from engaging in any type of investments that are deemed speculative, like any type of securities, derivatives, the stuff we love. This insane rule limits them from investing in the economy and consequentially consolidates the financial industry. Basically, this is them telling the banks what they can and can't do. And Warren was behind it all, especially the Volcker Rule. It's been literally weeks going into the rest of her abhorrent bills, like making it near impossible to file bankruptcy or using taxpayer dollars to bail out banks. Or that Warren's creation of the CFPB and her part in the Volcker Rule says a lot about what her plans will be when she moves forward with her anti-crypto army. Look at it like this. The banks had a big falling out, and she swooped in, made a new agency that ignores the system of checks and balances, and used that agency to stop the banks from being able to take on any form of risk. You shouldn't outlaw cars if you get in a crash. You should make them safer. She would rather control the situation and suppress the economy instead of giving it a chance to repair itself and get better over time. So when you look at the fall of Celsius and FTX through the comparative lens of the 2008 financial crisis, we already know her playbook. She's going to try to do the exact same thing she did before. She's trying to control the game, and we can't let her. She already wants to tax unrealized gains. If it goes her way, she could have you paying taxes on positions you lost on. A study done by the American Action Forum shows that our GDP would have shrunk by $1.1 trillion if Warren would have gotten her way on that egregious $3 trillion wealth tax proposal. She's missed the part where everyone simply leaves America in order to not pay insane taxes. Just like she's missing the part where crypto is going to leave America, and so am I. And our economy is going to miss out on that opportunity if she gets her way with this. Don't even get me started with her Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act. Long story short, she wants the blockchain to be under constant surveillance, and she doesn't care at all about your privacy. It's a disaster, and she has to know that. It's like she has a blind spot where she misses these really important points that actually hurt us in the long run. But guess what? This blind spot is there by design. This blind spot allows her to say keywords like tax the rich and equal outcome. And when these words elicit an emotional response from low IQ voters who outnumber the smart ones 1,000 to 1, this is how she stays in power. This is how she tells lies. And they work out for her own agenda. It's been working her entire life. Why should she stop now? Well, I guess now she's got some enemies. That's all I got. Be blessed. BitBoy out.